This of you are very look fresh. Now only they chop among the three of you.
It's okay. Mic stand yìí. Sẹ́yìn nínú ọmọ fún mi.
Let me welcome here the former Chief of Army Staff, now Chairman, Leadway Assurance Company Limited, General Martin Luther Guai is here with us. General, I welcome you. And also here, His Excellency Richard Hugh Montgomery, British High Commissioner to Nigeria. You're welcome. I would like to welcome the author, an amazing ambassador to the world from here. We welcome Dr. Olusegun Olutoyin Aganga. We welcome you. We welcome you. We'd like to welcome here this morning the former Minister for Police Affairs, His Excellency Adamu Maina Waziri. I welcome you this morning. You're welcome.
solutions. I wanted to focus more on solutions, but not just the symptoms, but the causes of the problems. So when you talk about corruption, why are the causes? And that's what we need to focus on if we want a sustained solution to this issue.
Now, I have got a quote from the book which I thought you might want to comment on. It's by Nelson Mandela, and he said, obviously in another context at another time, but he said, the world will not respect Africa until Nigeria earns that respect. The black people of the world need Nigeria to be great as a source of pride and confidence. Now, that seems to me to really put the burden on Nigeria to say, here is a model that Africa can already observe and run. It's a huge burden on Nigeria. It's a huge opportunity for Africa.
It is a burden which Nigeria can actually deal with. You see, when I was in government, I went to at least 68 different countries marketing Africa. And I've been to many African countries, including Rwanda, Kenya, and other countries. Everywhere I went, my experience was that they all want Nigeria to succeed. Because they know Nigeria was able what you hear and what you see. And the reasons are very obvious. You obviously know that Nigeria is the number one economy in Africa. 1 out of every 5 Africans you see is a Nigerian. If you look at population, the region was 200 million plus. And that's replicated in diaspora. And when you look at the diaspora, I think if you look at the immigrant population in the United States, Nigeria is supposed to have the most highly educated immigrants in America. I remember when we visited President Obama at the White House. The first thing he told the president and the team, look, there are more than 25,000 Nigerians in the U.S. supporting the health system. We have the same thing we can hear. So when you and he has played a role in that, we played a very, very important role in time of apartheid. We played a very important peace missions all over will do. So I think it's obvious that for Africa to be great, Nigeria has to rise. And I'm interested, they're looking at Africa from the eyes of Nigeria. Because if we claim to Africa will be great. It costs more for that African nation.
May I now turn from the very large picture to your own family and background, Chip. The impact of your family and your background on your thinking, on your analysis. And I know that for you, family is terribly important. And I thought you might like to read just a short passage from page 45 of the book, but I think you talked about some the family members.
Let me welcome again the Olofa of Ofa, His Royal Majesty Oba Mufutao Gbadamosi Eshuwoye II. Royal Father, we welcome you. I also like to welcome here Chief Waide Yusuf Olorogun Agbeje of Lagos, representing His Royal Highness, the Oba of Lagos. We welcome you. Also here with us is the former Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, former Treasurer and Vice President of the World Bank, Mr. Arun Maute, is here with us. We welcome you and say thank you for service rendered to the nation.
for our birthday were our unique gifts from her, not myself, not us. They were not an iPhone or an iPhone. The letters were book and marking, but they were also a lens through which she could assess her lives during the past year as observed by the mother. She praised us for what we did well and pointed out areas where we needed to improve. At an early age, she insisted I listen to the news with her from the radio, and we would discuss what we heard after the news. Then she would give me 3 daily newspapers for that day, ask me to rate the same story or news item in the papers, and then tell her which writing or reporting I prefer and why. We were taught that contentment is the biggest wealth any one of us could have. Now, academic excellence was taken for granted, but it was important to our parents that we also excel in sports and extracurricular activities. For example, every child had to join the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or Boys Brigade or Red Cross. My mother was a proud member and officer of Girl Scouts and Red Cross. And then I went on to talk about how we were living well through secondary school. She had her own research in the school, and my mother insisted that when I went to the school, that deliver presence, academic excellence, spiritual insight, and character formation. And I'm happy today that I went to that school. It's called high school at
All right. Okay, thank you. Control room, we're ready now. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please shall we all rise now for the national anthem. Thank you very much. Let's be seated. Your Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, represented here by one of Nigeria's finest investment bankers, Mr. Olawale Edun, Special Advisor to the President on Monetary Policy. I welcome you. Your Excellencies, the 2 former presidents will be joining us virtually. So I'd like to welcome His Excellency President Olusegun Obasanjo GCFR. President, please let's put our hands together for him. He will hear wherever he is. President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan GCFR. I'd like to welcome very specially the author. He's a man that Nigeria can be absolutely proud of. He has done a lot in finance, in investment, in trade, in industry, and now he's doing a lot in writing books. Please welcome here Dr. Olusegun Olutoyin Aganga. I welcome you, sir. Let me welcome our royal fathers here. We have the Olofa of Ofa, we have the representative of the Oba of Lagos, and also just walking in here is a former governor of Ekiti State and former chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, Dr. Kayode Fayemi. We welcome you. The woman that we call a super palm sec. Dr. Dira Wushika is also here with us. We welcome you. But let me especially welcome His Excellency, the Deputy Governor of Kogi State, one of those that gives vibrancy to youths in government. Dr. Edward Onoja, I welcome you. Also here is the British High Commissioner to Nigeria, His Excellency Richard Hugh Montgomery. You're welcome. The former Director General of SEC, former Treasurer and Vice President of the World Bank, Mr. Arun Maute, is also here with us. I welcome you. Let me welcome the former Chief of Staff to the President Goodluck Jonathan. Chief Ogiadume, I'd like to welcome you very specially. You're welcome. The former Minister for Police Affairs, Alhaji Adamu Maina Waziri, is also here with us. And let me especially welcome the former Chief of Army Staff, General Martins Aguirre. I welcome you. But more importantly, let me welcome all of you, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is with pleasure that I welcome all of you to the launch of the book, Reclaiming the Jewel of Africa, a blueprint on how to take the country, indeed the continent, from potential to prosperity. It is at moments like this that one begins to wax lyrical about our continent, where you can comfortably and confidently say, I am an African, not because I was born here, but because my heart beats with the heartbeat of the continent. I am an African, not because my skin is black, but because my mind is engaged by Africa. I am an African, not because I live on its soil, but because my soul is at home here. Welcome to the launch of a book that explores the possibilities for our country and indeed our continent. A book that celebrates the triumphs of our nations, that paints the picture of a bright future and highlights the essence of the African Renaissance. Although it lives in the shadows of the rest of the world, and I mean Africa, from the book, the time has come for Africa, and indeed my dear country Nigeria, to burst out with radiant luminosity. So I welcome all of you to this book written by one of Africa's best, intellectually deep and penetrating, pointing the finger to our future. But to formally welcome all of us to this event, I would like to welcome here the former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan GCFR.
I am pleased to be part of the public presentation of this special epoch-making book titled Reclaiming the Jewel of Africa. Thank the author, Olusegun Aganda, for inviting me to share the event. I would have loved to be here in person performing this function, but I'm currently outside the country on an international assignment. I congratulate Aganda for this great efforts in writing the book. I describe the book as a special one because I know the capacity of the author, who worked closely with me in managing the economy of our country under our administration. Then Aganda handled key portfolios in the economic sector, including Finance Minister, Chairman of the Economic Implementation Team, and Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment. We could simply describe it as an insider on economic issues in our administration. comforting that he has documented his experience in governance and his substantial experience in global finance and economic management in this book. I'm privileged to have seen the book before many of you because Aganda sent me a copy in advance. I'll say that the book is a rich resource on development and the pathway to progress, focusing on the solutions Nigeria needs in order to unleash its greatness for the good for our people. It is, as the author himself has described, a blueprint for taking Nigeria from potential to prosperity. I believe the reviewer will tell us more about this book. It is not surprising that the book is already a bestseller, even before it was first publicly presented in London, and now here in Nigeria. This is because of the unique part and personality of the author. Aganda has a great passion and desire for Nigeria and Africa's development. My Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment. Aganda at a point turned me into a marketing manager by traveling with me to at least 40 countries in search of foreign investment. I'm glad that the ventures and travels will see captured in one of the chapters in the book paid off. As our nation then became Africa's first destination for foreign direct investment and one of the fastest growing economies at that time. I believe that for Aganda to pour that boundless passion into a book to create a masterpiece, and he has been gracious enough to render it in a simple language that all of us are great in understand. I recommend the book to everyone. It's an important tool in our march to greatness. Once again, congratulations to you again, and thank you all for coming out on me.
Thank you, Your Excellency. That round of applause is not presidential. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. And while he was speaking, the immediate past Honorable Minister in charge of Industry, Trade and Investment, Otumba Niyi Adebayo, walked in. I welcome you, sir. I welcome you. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, from one president to the other. Before the event started, I was watching the interview of the author. He said there are only one difference between the leadership style of President Jonathan and Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. He said President Jonathan leads from the middle, President Obasanjo leads from the front. And he is the one that will be speaking to us now, one of the fathers of the nation. Please join me as I welcome here Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, GCFR. Are we having problems linking up? Okay. Our technical people are trying to sort it out, and once we do, we will bring the voice of His Excellency, the former President of Nigeria. Okay, he's here. Thank you.
Let me start by thanking and
too, I commend him for the understanding he displays on almost every page of the book. I agree to a large extent with Sherman on the views he expressed in this book. Why should we agree to a great extent? Obviously, not because we bear the same first name condition, and we do not share the same profession or the same training background. He went for soft training, and I went for hard one. And whether we have some for hard training background, if we are development persons, our views in some essential areas must coincide or be in tandem. In a way, I must also, to some extent, accept responsibility for this book. Because as Shegun points out in the book, it comes partly out of his experience and exposure in government under President Jonathan. I take substantial responsibility for drafting Shegun into the Noble Project Nigeria, which I did midway into my incarnation as leader of Nigeria between 1999 and 2007. I first met Shegun while he was the managing director of Goldman Sachs in London, a very important position in the financial world. He was part of the bank delegation that visited me in Abuja between 2004 and 2005, or thereabout. Both of us connected quite naturally when he was introduced as Shegun. But more importantly, because I was highly impressed with his contributions during our discussion, I challenged Shegun, who was in diaspora, to get more involved from his base in London in our nation-building efforts here in Nigeria. I am pleased to indicate that my call considerably inspired Shegun to establish the Nigeria Leadership Initiative, NLI, that was registered in the United Kingdom in 2006. NLI's mission is to create a growing global network of credible, accomplished, community-inspired Nigerian leaders committed to taking responsibility for driving positive change in Nigeria and Nigerian communities. Because of its lofty objectives, NLI attracted the support of many global and international organizations, including the World Bank, which mandated NLI to replicate the initiative in Rwanda. Our administration also invited NLI to conduct a program for members of the government in April 2006. This background explains why in 2010 I gently hinted to then President Jonathan of the need for him to appoint Shegun as his financial minister. Not only was Shegun appointed Minister of Finance, he was also appointed Chairman of the Economic Management Team. Shegun was later appointed the Pioneer Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, which I did not feel let down by Shegun's performance in the two portfolios that were assigned to him. I remain proud of it. Let me make a point here. I always look in and look out for men and women of intelligence, track record of performance, ability, love of Nigeria and humanity, and love and fear of God, and courage with humility and integrity to serve Nigeria. None of them is perfect, especially from the diaspora, have performed creditably well for them. Shemaganda is one of them. So is Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, Leslie Obiora, Akin Adesina, Iwanu Lukman, and Bayo Ogunwusi. There are others who secured international appointment after their services at the national level under my watch. Among such distinguished ones are Amina Mohammed, Babatunde Oshutime, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, Obi Ezekwesili, and Akin Adesina, after he had initially been encouraged by me to serve at home. The point I'm making is that we have both at home and in the diaspora Nigerians who have attained world and best standard in their character, professions, attributes, performance, and reputation in all walks of life. With such men and women, why are we underperforming at home? I will come to this later. For now, I say without equivocation that Olusegun Aganda stands out as one of the best in these categories of best performance. So this book will be reviewed by the reviewer, and since the author will of course talk a bit about the book when he speaks to us, I will not preempt them. Judging from the reading of substantial part of the book and part of the review of the book, it is a timely and relevant book for Nigeria, coming out of practical experience, exposure, professional understanding, and interaction. Yes, Nigeria is a potential jewel of Africa, if you want to put it that way, but we have never attained that position. Can you reclaim what you have never had or attained? Here I have my first minor disagreement with of this book. It is not in terms of the content, which I will come to later, but in terms of the title. Should it be reclaiming or claiming the jewel of Africa? If we have not reached there, which we have not, our first assignment is to reach there. Not long ago, I decided to have on record the experiences of some of Nigerian ambassadors from independence to date. One of the first set of ambassadors, Ambassador Musuduri, during the interview, recollected that at the first meeting of the United Nations General Assembly, attended by Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa, for the admission of Nigeria as a member of the United Nations on October 7, 1960, Nigeria was referred to as giant in the sun. As at that time, the expectation of Africa and the rest of the world was for Nigeria to be a giant in the world. But over the past 63 years, we have not lived up to expectation. We have disappointed ourselves. We have disappointed Africa. We have disappointed the black race. And we have disappointed the world. What Shegun has tried to identify, itemize, and recommend in this book is the way forward. At the beginning of charting a new course for ourselves is to admit our failure, because we have not always put the round peg in the round hole. We are carried along by ego and emotion of selfishness, and self-centeredness, ethnic and religious jingoism, with total lack of understanding of the world we live in, and gross misunderstanding of what development entails, and how to move fast and continuously on the trajectory of development. In these connections, let me identify two of the major issues which are interrelated on the factors for all-round development. These are peace and security, which we cannot achieve without justice, equity, and inclusive society. And telling ourselves the truth, we have not done well on this course in the recent past, in the last decade and a half. I will also point at the issue of education, where over 20 million children that should be in school are not in school. We do not need an oracle to tell us the consequences of that for tomorrow. Skill acquisition, empowerment and employment of youth who seem to be ignored or not to be appreciated. We do not need to look far for the remote causes of banditry, Boko Haram, kidnapping and other organized crimes. We are living dangerously on the verge of gunpowder, driving more people into poverty through good policies poorly and thoughtlessly implemented, or bad policies and no policy at all. Our population is made up of men and women almost on equal numbers. We have not given enough appropriate and adequate attention to all aspects of preparing women for all-round development programs for the community, a state, a nation, or even the continent of Africa and the whole world. If we fail to get all hands on deck, we will be diminished in all our instruments and capacity for development. Women have an important role to play on the development agenda. The other point, other than the title of the book, where I will again, in a small way, disagree with Shegun in the book, is on the issue of leadership. Adequate emphasis is not placed on leadership as the crucial and critical defining and decisive factor in determining the shape, form, direction, speed, content, and trajectory of development for any human organization, and especially for a nation like Nigeria. If you ask most of our leaders why they want to be in the position they are craving for, you will weep for your nation over their level of emptiness as far as development issues are concerned. What do they understand for peace, security, stability, predictability, development, growth, and progress to be actualized? I believe that peace, security, democracy, and prosperity must be taken together. Any leader that fails to understand any of these and fails to bring them together to deliver good governance for the welfare and well-being of the people, all the people, and not contribute anything significant for claiming Nigeria as a jewel of Africa, let alone the jewel of Africa, and definitely will be far In addition, or complementary to the issue of leadership, is that of consistency and continuity of policies. We are never short of policies, and when you look into the archive, we have policies since independence that are still substantially relevant today. Policy is not much of our problem. Its implementation and sustainability are the problems. With almost every new administration in Nigeria, you will hear for the first time ever as if Nigeria is just created by them. There's no humility and understanding to know what have existed, how they have worked or not worked, what lesson to learn. Rather, it is usually a blanket condemnation, disapproval, or covering up of achievement of others in the past. We cannot build cumulatively on an edifice if we keep removing bricks that others put in place in the past. Reforms, yes. Total dismantling is destructive and retrogressive. Leadership is the key to unlock and remove any impediment to Nigeria's attainment of its divine stature and status and being kept a living picture. With leadership issue resolved in terms of character, attributes, value, virtue, orientation, performance, and love of humanity, is love and fear of God. All other things will be given in terms of achievement, and Nigeria will become a giant in the sun. We then will move from potentiality to actuality. Added to continuity and consistency of policies, with reforms must be headhunting for the best possible persons under transformational leader to do the job for the glory of Nigeria and all Nigerians. Once again, I congratulate you, Shegun, for making this highly impressive contribution to the body of knowledge on Nigeria's development and ours. You are welcome to the League of Authors for Nigeria's development endeavors. I hope this will not be your last publication. I recommend this book to Nigeria's current leaders at national and subnational levels in all walks of life. The huge task of nation building demands a whole of the society approach. Those in the academia and researchers will also find the book quite useful, as it contains a lot of evidence-based facts and data. Thank you very much for your kind attention. May God bless you all and the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I apologize for not being able to be physically with you because the arrangement I made for transportation turned to be a failure. The lesson learned that when you make plans, you should also have a backup arrangement. Thank you very much.
You know, as I listened to him, it was what Mahatma Gandhi once said that came to my mind. He said, the only way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. The man that just spoke there loves other people and loves Nigeria. What he just said, I just heard from the grapevine that he actually left Abeokuta at 3 a.m. this morning to catch a flight in Lagos, and he failed. He went back to Abeokuta, and within a few hours, that's the result. Intellectual and deep. I'd like to welcome here the former Attorney General of the Federation of Minister of Justice, Mohammed Bello Adoke, SAN, is here with us. I welcome you. Ambassador Fred Aga, PhD, DG and Chief Trade Negotiator, Nigerian Office of Trade Negotiations, is here with us. I welcome you. Thank you very much. I also want to welcome Dr. Nasri Olaitan Raji Mustafa, Director General and CEO of National Productivity Center. He's here with us. We welcome you. Thank you very much. Ambassador Abukadri Musa, former Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Trade, is here. Ali Ismaila, former Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Defense. Mr. Odu, former Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Finance. And there's another Permanent Secretary that is also here and has written a book, Good Governance in Nigeria, the Civil Service Pathway, one of the finest Permanent Secretaries. Dr. Goke Adegorie is also here with us. And I'm just looking at his face, and he doesn't look 70 at all. The grace of God is upon you. Thank you and congratulations. Thank you. Let me also welcome here the Chinese ambassadors to Nigeria. He Churong. Did I get that? I tried. Abi? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And so, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we will take 3 goodwill messages, very short one, and we'll be starting with the former governor of Ekiti State, former chairman of Nigerian Governors Forum, an intellectual like the author. I'd like to welcome here Dr. Kayode Fayemi.
Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's really a pleasure and a privilege for me to be here this morning to honor the author and then to be part of this intellectual engagement, looking at where we've been, where we are, and where we ought to be as a nation. For me, Dr. Aganga represents the very best from this school. And that's the first reason why I'm here. Dr. Aganga is from the best school in Nigeria, Christ School, Ado Ekiti. And anyone who is familiar with that school would know that everything that he has done at Goldman Sachs, in government, finance minister, minister of industry, trade and investment, at the NLI, all come from the school. There's no question. Capacity, competence, courage, compassion, integrity, that's the values that Dr. Segun Aganga was weaned on as a young man. He has a great nickname in the school, but I won't go into that. He won't want me to. And he was my senior by a mile, so don't think we're contemporaries. And you know, once a senior, always a senior. But talking seriously about this work that has been produced, one cannot but agree with Baba Olusegun Obasanjo to a large extent, as he says. But we have seen, I must say with respect to him, flickers of that jewel of Africa. Nigeria has demonstrated capacity. Nigeria has led from the front. You only need to cast your mind back to that speech, that 76 speech by Murtala Mohammed at the Organization of African Unity meeting, where the decision was taken on the need to back MPLA as the liberation movement in Angola. The Africa has come of age speech, which his own government, Murtala Obasanjo government, led on, and several other areas where Nigeria has demonstrated capacity. However, the question to ask, I haven't read the book, but I'm sure there must be references to this, is if it's about leaders. Yes, we've had leaders who have had inadequacies, who have also demonstrated capacity in their own right. But why is it that consecutively, after every experience, we come back and reflect negatively about the role of each person who has occupied the office? So maybe this is one reason why we should be talking about leadership rather than leader as a team, and also talking about the structure rather than the agent. Maybe when we are able to put the two together, we would ultimately come to that experience that we all yearn for our nation, to be that jewel that Africa looks up to and that represents the very best of the global black world. Because in another 30 years, the UN says we'll be the number 3 nation in the world by population size. And we have to have a roadmap to that experience and responsibilities that will thrust on us. Which is why I think this book is a very timely book. A new government has just taken over in our country. That government is struggling with the challenges of setting the right path for the nation, and it is absolutely necessary that a work such as the one that Dr. Ganga has put together complements other efforts to ensure that the Tinubu administration actually learns from the experience of previous leaders and governments, and also does not take itself too seriously to discard those experiences, as President Obasanjo has said, by denigrating or condemning what has gone before, but building on the experiences in its totality in order for us as a country to be that jewel that we really ought to be for the continent of Africa and to the world. Thank you for this book. Congratulations, my senior. We're proud of you in Christ School, and I'm sure every other person is proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any applause for him is also for Christ School. Thank you very much, Excellency Dr. Kayode Fayemi. I'd like to welcome here former Permanent Secretary, Minister of Budget and National Planning, Nana Fatima Mede. I welcome you. Also here, thank you very much. Also here, the National Coordinator and CEO, African Union Development Agency, the new Partnership for Africa's Development, Princess Gloria Kabondo is also here. I welcome you. Thank you very much. Honorable Abike Dabiri-Arewa, Chairman, CEO, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, is also here, taking care of our children overseas and relevant to Nigeria. We say we are welcome. Thank you very much. Let me also welcome the Director General of SMEDAN, Mr. Olawale Fasonya, is here with us. Thank you very much. And so, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, from Dr. Kayode Fayemi, move on to the man that sat on the seat of, former seat of Dr. Ganga's Minister of industry, trade, and investment. That is why they're sitting very close to each other and sharing ideas. This man is also very eminent, former governor of Ekiti State. This man has been in legal practice for over 41 years. Excellence runs from Ekiti. I'd like to welcome here Otumba Niyi Adebayo.
Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I thank Dr. Aganga for inviting me to this program. First of all, I'm going to write on the words spoken by my former governor, Governor Fayemi, and when he espoused all the things about Dr. Aganga that he imbibed from Christ School Ado Ekiti. Unfortunately, even though I'm from Ekiti, I was not opportuned to attend that school. I went to the senior of that school, CMS Grammar School in Lagos. However, I cannot but agree with Governor Fayemi because my late father himself attended Christ School. When I was appointed Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, one of the things I did when I got into office was to go through the files and go through the policies that had been put together by the previous administrations. And a lot of the things that I came across were things that had been put in place by Dr. Aganga. I must use this opportunity to thank you most sincerely for making my work very, very easy. Because you had put in place a lot of the things, and all we had to do was build on what you had put in place. I haven't read the book, but I was reading the preface when I came in, and the very first paragraph, I agree with you completely, and it also expresses exactly how I feel about being in public office. And when I was appointed, I thought about the role that I was being asked to play. And I thought about those who had been in that office. And without a doubt, even looking at your feet, one sees that you wear very large shoes. And the person who was appointed after you, Edelama, his shoes are even bigger than yours. So getting into office, and as you can see, I have very small feet. Getting into office, I was a bit worried as to how I would be able to perform, considering those I would be that had come to, that had been in office before me. But like I said, a lot of the things had been put in place. There are two policies that you put in place that we have built on and that we have renewed and that I'm particularly very proud of. One is the automotive policy. Our administration, luckily towards the end of the administration, we were able to put in place a new automotive policy, which we hope will lead to the original equipment manufacturers of motor vehicles coming into Nigeria to come and start assembling motor vehicles. And another policy that we were able to put in place and renew, building on what you had put in, was the Nigerian Sugar Master Plan, which has been extended for another 10 years. And we are hopeful that the the new administration, apologies, the new administration will follow and build on that so that Nigeria will become self-sufficient in the production of sugar within another few years. And this is as a result of your forward thinking, your thoughtfulness, your forward looking forward to making Nigeria a highly industrialized country. I congratulate you on this book. I look forward to reading it, and I look forward, like you, to imparting my knowledge on those who are coming after me. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'd like to welcome here Dr. Harun Adamu, an elder statesman, wonderful writer, one of the finest in this country. I welcome you, sir. Alhaji Tijani Borodo, President and Chairman of FOD Nigeria, is also here with us. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is said that excellence is the unlimited ability to improve the quality of what you offer. The man that we're celebrating here is a man of excellence. Our next speaker is a woman of excellence. Former Director General of SEC, former Treasurer and Vice President of the World Bank. She's a woman you can go to war with intellectually. Please welcome Ms. Aruma Ote. Meanwhile, she's stepping here. I'd like to welcome Mr. Adewale Ogunmoyede, representing Distinguished Senator Ibikule Amosu, former Governor of Ogun State. I welcome you.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please permit me to stand by the established protocol, but also just to say that it is a singular honor for me to be at the book launch of my big brother's book, Dr. Segun Aganga. And I want to say that even though I did not go to Christ School, Ado Ekiti, like my other brother said he did, I did go to the same school as Dr. Segun Aganga. And that school teaches what you learned at Christ School, Ado Ekiti, which is the 4 C's of character, compassion, competence, and courage. Dr. Segun Aganga has always cared deeply for Nigeria, for Africa, for society. And many of you will not be aware of this, but when he was MD at Goldman Sachs, he served on a committee that led the groundwork for transforming our capital markets, which was called Building a World-Class Capital Market. So the SEC, the Nigerian capital market, is indebted to him for that work. As Minister of Finance, I was honored to work closely with him to reform our markets. And I hope that we'll have some time to tell some of the stories about all of the work that we had to do together. One of the things for me that was particularly important was having a minister who understood the value of capital markets. And so that's how come we worked so closely together with the reforms that we put in place in my time as Director General SEC. As Minister of Industry, we worked very closely together in mobilizing foreign direct investments, and some of those 40-country trips that he had President Goodluck participate in, he mobilized many of us across various agencies to join him and showcase the great things about Nigeria. Finally, I am personally indebted to my big brother for his guidance to me in navigating a public service role. In many cases where I thought we could just go ahead because the law backed us in what we would do at SEC, he said to me, let us go and talk to the politicians. So all of what we did were actually endorsed by the politicians. I will never forget that, and I've shared that as jewels that I share with others as they navigate politics, public service, whether in this country or in other countries. So I can say that he was one of those that was instrumental to the foundation that the SEC Nigeria has laid for transforming our capital markets and therefore helping transform the Nigerian economy. On the book, Reclaiming the Jewel of Africa, it is unique. And I know people have said that several people have written books about their journeys, but this book is unique because it's not just written with experience and knowledge. It is written with love. Love for a country, love for a continent, love for society. I was honored that the Royal African Society, a 122-year-old charity, hosted the book launch in London on the 12th of July. And some of you who were at that book launch will understand how so valuable the issues that he talks or how so valuable it is to many people, not just in Nigeria, but around the world, for our nation, Nigeria, to succeed. And people agree that the issues that he's raised are important issues as we think about taking the country from where it is today to unleashing its potential. There's so many germs in the book, and there is so much that I appreciate, and so I wouldn't take your time to enumerate all of them, but I will share two particularly. One that is one of the reasons that Dr. Segun Aganga and I worked very closely together is understanding that the starting point for our nation, for society, for a leader is what your values are. And he talks about that in the book. The second is something that is also significantly important to me, is the influence of foundations that are strong, particularly what we and everybody in this room is a parent or is a mentor of some sort, what we invest in children. And I don't want to take the sail away from him, but I was particularly touched by one of the stories in the book, which is that his mother used to write 15-page letters to each of her children on every birthday. And that is part of how you invest in building the kind of leader that Dr. Segun Aganga has been in everything that he's been given to do. My sincere appreciation, therefore, to you, Dr. Aganga, for this book, which is a manual, not just for Nigeria, not just for Africa, but for any nation that wants to unleash its potential. And that potential is driven by its people. But I think particularly for Nigeria, even more so, given the high expectations of Nigeria. Thank you, my dear brother, for this primer for every leader in the private and public sector. I'll close by saying that if you haven't read Reclaiming the Jewel of Africa, I can assure you that it's a must read. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
She talked about the 15-page letter to the children. Her presentation sounded more like a lovely letter from a sister. Let's put our hands together for our ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I'd like to welcome here an elder statesman, accountant, businessman, socialite, lover of culture, Chief Joseph Kosoniola Randall. I welcome you. Maybe they didn't know who I talked about. Okay, Chief J.K. Randall is here. I also want to welcome here the Chairman, House Committee on Energy, Deputy Chairman, House Committee on Education and Human Capital Development, Honorable David Olusegun Oguni is here. Thank you very much. And so we'll be talking about the book. Let's review it. And the person that will do it is eminently qualified to do so. Former presidential spokesperson. Currently now the chairman of the editorial board of These Day. One of Nigeria's finest writers, Segun Adeniyi.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in his 1998 book, The Wealth and Poverty of Nations, Why Some Are So Rich and Some Are So Poor, the late Harvard Emeritus Professor of History and Economics, Davis Landes, interrogated the paradox of our country. In 1965, according to Landes, Nigeria, an oil exporting country, had higher GDP per capita than Indonesia, another oil exporting country. 25 years later, Indonesia had 3 times the Nigerian level. Landers then posed this question: if Indonesia could do so well, why not Nigeria? Why Dr. Olusegun Aganga may not have set out to answer Landers' question in his own book that has brought us here today, it nonetheless provides real insights into the structure and culture that have impacted negatively on the economic development of our country, Nigeria, and that of the continent. But reclaiming the jewel of Africa, a blueprint for taking Nigeria and Africa from potential to prosperity, is not another book of lamentation. Spanning 261 pages and broken into 10 chapters, this is a compelling book that seeks to provoke conversations that are both necessary and important if we must attain the desired growth and development, not only in our country, but also in Africa as a whole. Now let's look at the author. A chartered accountant who has had a distinguished career in the financial services sector spanning 4 decades, and a stint in the Nigerian public service at the highest level. Aganga is a former managing director at Goldman Sachs and senior director at Ernst & Young in London. Appointed to the Federal Executive Council by President Goodluck Jonathan in 2010, Aganga first served as Minister of Finance and Chairman of the Economic Management Team before he was moved to the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. At that period, Aganga had the rare distinction of chairing both the World Bank and the World Trade Organization at the same time. It is the totality of these varied experiences and exposure that Aganga brings to bear in writing this book that offers the perceptive reader insights into the endless possibilities in our country and continent, while offering practical guides on how to fix the problems that have for decades held us back from peace and prosperity. Quite naturally, the book opens with the issue of leadership and political governance structure before the author examines the place of critical institutions in the development of any society. He highlights 3 that he believes need to be nurtured to promote sustainable growth and reduce poverty in Nigeria and Africa. They are political, economic, and social institutions. When these 3 properly align, they ultimately help to provide stability in the system and engender shared prosperity, according to Aganga, who draws relevant examples from countries that have leveraged on these institutions for the advancement of their people. For Nigeria to grow, Aganga argues that political offices need to be made less attractive for private material gain. It is a position shared by many of us, but that would require a reorientation, not only by those who seek public offices, whether in elective or appointive capacity, but also by the citizenry. For the economic institutions, Aganga advocates that the goal should be to promote property rights, equal opportunities, competitive open market, and a dependable legal system anchored on the rule of law. For social institutions, the emphasis should be on value-driven education, although the role of the NGO is also critical, according to Aganga. While the focus of Chapter 3 is on the civil service, the author also shared the experience of his first days as minister, as well as the culture shock of moving from the private sector in the United Kingdom to the public sector in Nigeria. In this chapter, the author highlights the efforts he and his team made while taking readers through the lessons that can be learned from countries like Japan and Malaysia on the role of the civil service. In Chapter 4, the author deals with the structure of the Nigerian economy that produces growth, which is neither fast enough for the population we breed nor inclusive. The impediments he highlights include low tax to GDP, ineffective diversification policies, dependency on oil rents, interest rate sterility, recurrent expenditure blights, exchange rate mismanagement, ever-growing public debt, and the political environment that does not encourage long-term planning. But more concerning for Aganga is that despite the foregoing, elections are never won or lost in Nigeria on economic issues, as it is the case in many other countries. The title of Chapter 6 says it all: managing our resources better, eliminating leakages and waste. It speaks to the chaos and lack of accountability that define the public space in our country and the enormous waste of scarce resources at practically all levels and in all spheres. Using data from OPEC and the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, the author speaks to the ruinous effects of subsidy payments in the downstream sector of the petroleum industry. I'm sure you will be delighted that the current administration has decided to bite the bullet on this vexatious issue. In Chapter 7, Aganga re-echoes what most people, including former American President Bill Clinton, have said about Nigeria. Our people remain the biggest and most important assets. In Aganga's thesis, statistics from the United Kingdom National Health Service, NHS, were cited along with others from South Africa, United States, to home in the fact that there is hardly any field of human endeavor where Nigerians have not excelled. For instance, no fewer than 10,494 Nigerian medical professionals had been enlisted as of March 2021 in the NHS alone, according to Aganga, an indication of the enormous human resources available to our country. The challenge, of course, is how to harness this potential for the advancement of our people so that the whole of our country can become bigger than the sum of its parts. However, Aganga's argument on why our people are important goes beyond the quality of our citizens to the numbers. We, and I'm quoting here, we have a quantity advantage, and our demographic is the envy of the rest of the world, Aganga wrote, to buttress his point on the advantage of our young population. Now, another quote: the average age in Nigeria is about 18.6 years. This compares to about 42.5 years in Europe and 38.4 in China. End of quote. But Aganga is concerned that every year, Nigeria adds 5.5 million people to its population, which is about the population of Congo, Namibia, Liberia, Mauritania, and the Gambia, among others. He contrasted our population with that of the United Kingdom. In 1960, Nigeria was 46 million, UK was 52 million, which means our population was far less than that of the UK at independence. Today, our population is almost 4 times that of the UK. The warning from Aganga is the same as that in the 2009 report on Nigeria that the authorities never paid attention to. Sponsored by the British Council and coordinated by David Bloom, Harvard Professor of Economics and Demography, the report predicted that by 2030, Nigeria will be one of the few countries in the world with an abundance of young people at a period most others will be left with aging populations. With the right policies, the report concludes, Nigeria could easily become one of the world's leading economies. And with wrong choices, our young citizens will become an increasingly, I'm quoting them, an increasingly disruptive force. The signs that we are not prepared to reap this demographic dividend are staring us in the face. On an annual basis, our public universities are closed for several months. We make no serious investments in education or health. The population of jobless graduates keeps growing. Out of school children in Nigeria are almost twice the entire population of some of the countries within the sub-region. The totality of the foregoing is that we must curb irresponsible procreation. In advocating population control for the country, Aganga states that the high number is of little value when productivity is low and the economy relatively small, as is the case with our country today. What makes Aganga's book so compelling is that it contains facts and figures of the economic trajectory of both our country and the continent, from the 19th century to the initial post-independence era that held much promise before the story began to change in the latter part of the 20th century. Had we built strong institutions like many countries in Southeast Asia, that would have been the foundation for sustainable growth, according to Aganga. But he believes this is not too late an idea to imbibe, and every chapter of his book ends with far-reaching recommendations. To change the narrative of our country and continent, Aganga counsels that we must build a value-driven society. Using the time-tested concept of Omoluabi by the Yoruba, he advocates reorientation programs and campaigns. Aganga also advocates that we must instill law and order and refocus education, citing the example of Scandinavian countries. Other ideas he canvasses include building a citizenship that places less emphasis on state of origin and managing our diversity better. In this book, which I strongly recommend, Aganga provides insights into the Nigerian Industrial Revolution Plan and Nigerian Enterprises Development Program, both were his initiatives when he served as minister. Of course, there are others. The Sovereign Wealth Fund is another idea from Aganga. As of today, the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority has $2.3 billion in assets under management. I think we should clap for him on that. Having bemoaned the lack of continuity in which every administration abandons the policies and projects of previous ones, Aganga should be delighted with how the Sovereign Wealth Fund has been nurtured to become an institution. Meanwhile, I am not surprised that Aganga opened the last chapter of his book, which he titled The Road to Reclamation, Africa, Yesterday, Today and Tomorrow, with the embedded message in The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas, which is regarded as one of the best works of literature regarding ethics and society. A major theme in this story, popular in leadership classes across the world, is morality and how different people within a given society react to situations around them. Omelas, as Aganga stated, is a good metaphor for our country today. That so many of our professionals are leaving Nigeria for societies where things work and where they believe their families can be assured of a secure means of livelihood is a normal human aspiration. But the option taken by the residents of Omelas offers no solution to what ails us as a country. We must confront our demons, he advocates. For us to develop as a society, Aganga believes that we need to come to that special place where both the government and the people meet in an honest admission of shared responsibility for lost opportunities and the challenge of national retrieval. Overall, reclaiming the jewel of Africa is not just a guide to public officials, but also a call to citizens on contributing their quota towards the development of Nigeria and Africa. In endorsing the book, both former South African President Thabo Mbeki and renowned scholar Professor Wale Adebanwi attest to the fact that Aganga's thesis goes beyond the usual lamentations to providing workable solutions to many of the challenges that plague our country and continent. Quote, the prose is accessible and the data deployed is as current as possible in the third decade of the 21st century, wrote Dr. Christopher Kolade in the foreword. Such facts and figures with narratives of an involved person show that Nigeria indeed is the jewel of Africa. Before I take my seat, let me come back to the first chapter on leadership because of the considerable interest and attention the author has devoted to the issue, and I can personally attest to that. I first met Dr. Aganga in January 2006 when he partnered with Aspen Institute in Colorado, United States, to organize the first Nigerian leadership seminar in Hertfordshire, United Kingdom. He was then the managing director and head of hedge fund consulting at Goldman Sachs Prime Brokerage in London. I was then the editor of This Day newspapers in Lagos. But I was among the 28 Nigerians, 14 from the diaspora and 14 from home, he invited for that leadership session. From the diaspora were corporate and intellectual giants like Mr. Adebayo Ogunlesi, Professor Tayo Akiwande of MIT, Professor Jacob Olupon of Harvard, Professor Femi Oyebode of Birmingham University, respected journalist Mr. Adele Olojede, and others. But from home were Mr. Nur Ribadu, Madam Nasir El-Rufai, Mrs. Bola Adeshola, Mr. Tony Elumelu, Mr. Jim Ovia, Mr. Aswe Igodalo, Bishop Matthew Azankuka, Mrs. Ndidu Okonko Nwuleli, Mr. Hassan Oye Orukare, Major General Sarki Mukhtar, and me. In explaining the rationale for the Nigerian Leadership Initiative, which he founded, Aganga said the idea was premised on the need to raise the bar for leaders by sharpening their values-based skills and providing them with a platform to play a transformative role in Nigeria. The NLI has since worked with some 400 Nigerian leaders from various fields, many of who hold very high offices today in the public and private spheres. In 2006, the then Nigeria's High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, Dr. Kolade, sat with us throughout the 4 days and participated in all our sessions. At the end, he hosted us to dinner. I have never forgotten his last words to us. And I quote, "As you go out of here with enthusiasm in your desire to help your country, I must warn you of one thing, so you will not go with any illusion. The Nigerian terrain can kill the soul." That means you must be prepared for disappointments. I am sure that Dr. Aganga has had his own share of discouragement as minister, but that did not discourage him for giving his best to the country. That is a lesson for all of us. What distinguishes Aganga's book is that it is not so much about the past. It is much more about the promise that the future holds. He highlights the resilience and awakening of the Nigerian youth, their breakthrough in the entertainment industry, where they have elevated our country globally, and in the fintech space, where they have built 4 of the 6 unicorns in Africa, each worth at least $1 billion in valuation, and several other feats. For Africa, Dr. Aganga believes that the African Union must unite the continent through the full implementation of the African Continental Trade Agreement by creating free trade zones to encourage trade between and among our peoples. But Nigeria is at the core of Aganga's message. According to the author, our country is the soldier upon which Africa rests and the wings with which the continent can fly. Aganga will not be the first to make that kind of assumption, and he references the late South African icon, Mr. Nelson Mandela, to back up his claim. To the extent that every society rises to the level of wealth that their ingenuity and work ethics allow, what Dr. Aganga is telling us in Nigeria and other countries across the continent is that we have all it takes to reposition our country and continent for growth and development. But to realize that potential, we must embrace a new culture. Overall, the jewel of Africa is a sobering reminder of who we are as a people, where we are coming from, some of the mistakes we have made and their consequences, and the lessons we should imbibe going forward. In flowing prose, Dr. Aganga reflects on some of the challenges confronting us, and in the process provides his own solutions. At the end, he invites an honest confrontation with our stark reality as a nation and continent. But what he also says most clearly is that as bad as things may seem, if we embrace a more productive and cooperative form of engagement, we can rewrite the story of our country and our continent. Thank you very much for listening.
I told you he's an asset to the collective. Let's put our hands together for him. Olusegun Adeni, thank you very much. Thank you. I'd like to welcome here the former permanent secretary when Dr. Olusegun Aganga was Minister of Finance, Mr. Danladi Kifasi, who ended up to become the head of the Civil Service of Nigeria. He's also here with us. I welcome you. Thank you very much. Let me also welcome Dr. Kamoru Yusuf, MON, Group Managing Director, Cam Steel Holding, And those are the people who just winked at me now that they have a bullion van. Am I saying the truth? A bullion van to support the launch of this book. Yeah? Thank you very much. I don't know why every time I look at the title of the book, what keeps on ringing in my head is Restored Hope. It sounds alike. Reclaiming the joy, restored hope. And the man that is preaching the gospel of restored hope believes very clearly that there is no country on earth like Nigeria. And that is why he always tells people, let us do what we can to salvage this country from bad governance. He is our president, President Ahmed Bola Tinubu GCFR, represented here by his special advisor on monetary policy, one of Nigeria's finest investment bankers, Mr. Adewale Edu.
Thank you and good afternoon. His Excellency, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, His Excellency, the former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, former governors here present, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, Otumba Niyi Adebayo, Deputy Governor of Kogi State, His Excellency, the British High Commissioner, Richard Montgomery, Ms. Aruma Ote in particular, I'd like to recognize you, Kabiesi, Oba of Lagos, and the Olofa, Kabiesi, Adiakbelori Batakbelese. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm here representing Mr. President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But you know, I'll start before I go to representing him. I'd like to say on my own behalf, Mr. Segun Aganga, unlike Dr. Fayemi, I didn't go to the same school as him. I'll leave it at that. Unlike Ms. Aruma Ote, I didn't also go to the same school. But you know, I've known him from the very beginning of his career. We are contemporaries, and I remember he started, I think, Z.O. Oshonson and Co. And as a young accountant. And I remember in those early days, so long ago, he stood apart. There was something that he had. We were all the same, we were all hardworking, we were all very hopeful, but there was something he had that set him apart, that extra quality. And you knew then that Segun Aganga was destined for the glittering prizes. So I'm not shocked that he has achieved them, and I'm not surprised at what we have here today, this glittering gathering, including two former heads of state. The title has in it reclaiming, and I will differ slightly also along with Dr. Kayode Fayemi from former President Obasanjo. There was a time when Nigeria glittered like a jewel. There was a time when the civil service, the mandarins, the super PAMSECs competed and were recognized and they were people who all over the world, they were respected.
Huh?
It's a phone.
What are you doing?
That's what happens with technology sometimes. I hope it just doesn't get any more embarrassing. As I said, I am representing Mr. President, and in fact, when I mentioned to him, because of course, being a very good friend, the invitation, I was entrusted with delivering the invitation to Mr. President. And he immediately said that I and another of his special advisors, as we all know, he doesn't have a cabinet yet. Anytime now. But he does have special advisors, and he delegated 2 of us to come. Unfortunately, as I've apologized and explained to Segun, the second person wasn't available because of other jobs that he had been given. However, it just goes to show the esteem in which Segun is held, that 2 of us were asked to were delegated to come and represent Mr. President. It's very tricky representing. So I'll say right from now that whatever I have to say that is on point, technically correct, I'm popular with the people, I'm popular with this audience, is from Mr. President. Anything that is the opposite, I take the responsibility. So let me go right into it. And I unlike President Obasanjo, I have a backup if the technology fails. It is a great honor to be here today on this occasion, celebrating the launch of a seminal work that highlights strategic ideas beneficial for economic development and the reshaping of the society. The book is a testament to the power of experience, knowledge, and foresight backed by data-driven insights and a deep understanding of the nation's unique challenges and strengths. The world of economics is not just about numbers, charts, and figures. It is about understanding human behavior, the choices we make, and the consequences thereof. As we embrace this knowledge, we equip ourselves with the tools needed to navigate any macroeconomic environment. Today's book is also a tribute to the dedication of the author, Dr. Olusegun Aganga, CON, who has meticulously crafted this book, Reclaiming the Jewel of Africa, a blueprint for taking Nigeria and Africa from potential to prosperity. A timely reminder of our collective responsibility to nurture an environment that fosters curiosity and encourages critical thinking. The introductory pages of this book provide a glimpse into a well-articulated laundry list of untapped potential within our great country, Nigeria. In Dr. Segun Aganga's analogy, he uses analogy of a plane, insights shared from the vantage point of the cockpit of a continental flight, and the chapters of the book he styles as stopovers. Allow me then to share, without repeating what Segun Adeni has done so well, and without trying to be a second reviewer, allow me then to share my thoughts on 5 of the 10 stopovers very briefly. Starting with leadership, political and governance structure. A strong political and governance structure that prioritizes social stability, human capital development, and infrastructure initiatives can propel a country towards a path of inclusive development, enhancing the overall well-being of its citizens. The author pinpoints one logic of successful countries: building on core values. One cannot overemphasize the importance of values both in leadership and execution. Leaders who are value-driven and can hold and entertain diverse views empower the citizenry. Building a team of such value-based and competent leaders is a top priority for the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and meritocracy is the key. Having said that, I'm sure we all are aware of the need for balance, of something the likes of Dr. Fayemi has done very well, mixing the technocratic with the political. It's a balance that is a very delicate one that is part of inclusiveness. Thoughts around performance-based governance highlighted in the book largely align with the President's views. The reliance on stronger performance-based metrics across public sector agencies will improve accountability and quicken identification of gaps, as well as enable well-thought-out solutions to close such gaps. Vision, values, competence, and continuity are a few prescriptions listed within this chapter to push the country forward. On the next stopover, backbone of government, the civil service. It is interesting to learn, Dr. Aganga, that you canceled your flight to Nigeria on the morning of your scheduled departure to take up your ministerial appointment. Was it stage fright, cold feet? But you used that C from Christ School, Ado Ekiti, courage, and you eventually got on the plane, came to Nigeria. The rest, as they say, is history. Following your immense contributions to Nigeria's economy through your role within the public sector, we're glad that you made that decision, and I would like to believe that you too, you have no regrets. Civil servants are the backbone of public administration. They're responsible for formulating and implementing government policy, providing essential public services, and ensuring government institutions function effectively. Their dedication and professionalism are vital in translating political decisions into tangible actions that impact citizens' lives and national prosperity. Mr. President very much agrees with the view that good people make a great team, make a team great, rather. There are competent, hardworking, and disciplined personnel in the civil service. But that does not mean, however, that there is not room for improvement in the way the civil service operates. The approach that you, Dr. Aganga, took, upgrading, as we have heard from Otumba Niyi Adebayo, upgrading your immediate spheres of influence, the Ministry of Finance and then in the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, can be adopted by public office holders at the helm of the various ministries and agencies. These pragmatic steps taken to boost civil servants' capacity and output during your tenure were clearly articulated in your book. Next, stopover. Focus on number one, the economy. It was refreshing to read your thoughts on boosting inclusive growth, the case for better economic diversification, and managing not just public debt, but also exchange rates, interest rates, and external environmental dynamics. Regarding inclusive growth and economic diversification, I cannot overemphasize the necessity of a thriving business environment that would support industrial and SME activity, the engine of any economy. Then, of course, there's a low-hanging fruit in the trade sector, non-oil exports, including agriculture, where the Tinubu administration intends to leverage commodity boards for strategic crops such as cashew, cocoa, yam, palm oil, and groundnuts. This will ensure proper price discovery for producers of these cash crops, increase productivity, boost farm income, and promote rural economic growth. There are also plans to work with the state governments to enhance extension services that provide farmers with technical assistance on automation and modern farming techniques. Thus, agriculture and agro-allied enterprises are modernized so that Nigeria progressively transits from subsistence farming to small and medium-scale commercial farming and production. Let's continue this conversation to the next stopover, investment, making Nigeria the top destination again. And this ties closely, of course, with the last stopover, the last discussion on the economy. Certainly, a strong and stable macroeconomic environment is an important prerequisite to attracting investors. The deep dive into macroeconomic indicators was very incisive. Concerning inflation, current inflationary pressures exist, not just in Nigeria, but all over the world. The whole world is suffering this cost of living spike, partly due to the happenings in Russia, Ukraine, etc. Central banks have, for the most part, adopted a monetary policy tightening stance to combat rising inflation. For Nigeria, a blend of cost push and demand pull inflation is what is influencing the current trend. On the back of this, better policy cohesiveness between monetary and fiscal policy will eventually, in the medium term, tame inflation. Nigeria possesses, as we all know, immense potential to ascend as a premier investment destination, attracting discerning investors from across the globe. Our vast reserves of natural resources and diverse economic sectors offer multiple avenues for investors seeking profits, seeking lucrative opportunity. This government is prioritizing addressing the challenges related to security and corruption. With success, this will bolster the appeal of Nigeria as a secure and reliable and viable investment destination. Through proactive measures, the country can unlock its latent potential, emerging as a top investment hotspot and a beacon of opportunity in the landscape. I'll go through now to talk and finalize on, if I can find the stopover that I think is very dear to all our hearts. The topic of our biggest and most important asset, our people. Nigeria's most significant and indispensable asset is its people. A well-educated and healthy workforce will drive advancements the call is coming in. Will drive advancements in sectors attracting foreign investment and stimulating domestic industries. This chapter focuses on the current problem, the Japa syndrome. It's worth emphasizing part of our strategic goals of the Tinubu administration include establishing a conducive environment, not just for businesses to thrive, but also for our youth and job-ready nationals to excel. With concerted effort, Nigeria can stem the brain drain, and initiatives to this end include investing substantially in education, research, technology, and that will create the enabling environment for growth and innovation. Also, by encouraging the implementation of competitive compensation packages and career advancement opportunities for professionals in critical sectors. Nurturing a vibrant ecosystem, supporting entrepreneurship, as this will provide avenues for highly skilled Nigerians to contribute to the country's development and find fulfillment not by going abroad, but here in their homeland. Having said that, I must say that as we have seen, if people go abroad to the top institutions around the world, if they will go to Goldman Sachs, get the experience, and come back to Nigeria, that also, I think, is a pattern and it's a plan that works. So the pages of this book serve as a testament to the resilience, the ingenuity, and the untapped potential that define our great nation. Let us embrace the lessons from our past, learn from our challenges, and seize the opportunities that lie ahead. Together, with unwavering determination and collaborative efforts, we shall foster an economic landscape that empowers our people, fuels innovation, and paves the way for sustainable growth. As we write the next chapters of Nigeria's economic journey, let this book by Dr. Segun Aganga serve as a beacon, guiding us towards a brighter and a more prosperous tomorrow. However, a book alone cannot transform our nation. It is our collective responsibility, policymakers, entrepreneurs, educators, citizens of the country, to take insights from this book and try and translate them into action. Finally, Segun, once again, congratulations on this momentous achievement. Your dedication to shedding light on the intricate nuances of our nation's economic landscape through the lens of your profound experience and expertise is truly commendable. This remarkable achievement not only exemplifies your passion for the betterment of Nigeria's economic future, but it also underscores your unwavering commitment to service. Well done. Thank you for listening.
When he said,
Unveiling. No, go on.
okay. When he said, well done, that was presidential. But when he said, thank you for listening, that's from him. Let's put our hands together one more time for him, ladies and gentlemen. So we shall be unveiling the book now, and we shall see it. The content has been made known to us in a summary fashion by the reviewer. I'd like to welcome everybody who is sitting on the sofa, including Chief J.K. Randu, to join the people in front to please come up now. I would like the author to lead all his friends in front to please come up. The KBCs. Give me your fan from afar.
Thank you so much. I'm enjoying your flow.
Thank you.
Yeah, because it's continuing, you're flowing. Very nice.
So we're going to go closer to...
You can pop in here.
Ah, okay, you're going to push it this way? Come on. Show you. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Madam Diaspora included, on behalf of His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, it is my singular honor and pleasure to unveil this historic and all-important book to the glory of God and the benefit of mankind. I don't want this to... Oh, yeah. There's nobody there.
No. It's okay. Just pull it down.
Check, we have to move it on. Sorry, it's okay. Yes. Yes. We go down now. Here? Can you take that?
Do have to be number.
Okay, by popular demand, what do you want? What do you want? Photographers, are you okay now? Okay. By popular demand, Mr. Ganga, you've been asked to stay back. There are more people who want to take pictures with you. Those on the front row should please step down for now. Mr. Ganga, after this. Okay, sir. Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay, remove that. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Ambassador Musa, PAMSEC, Minister of Industry and Investment, and the staff of the Ministry of Industry and Investment and Ministry of Finance, Please, can you please join? Okay, those at the end there were not captured. They should go closer to Mr. Ganga now. Those who are at the end who are not captured should please move to Mr. Ganga now, please. Auntie Lolama Jekudumi, where are you? Can you climb? Let's come now. All the essays to Mr. Ganga, all the essays in finance, essays in industry and investment, please. And CEOs of state-owned enterprises, current and serving, in the Ministry of Industry and Investment, please. Thank you, Your Excellency. And Minister of Finance, okay, Your Excellency. Madam, sorry. And Minister of Finance, all his staff, Minister of Finance, and MITI. Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We'll do. Let's go down now. Let's continue the program, please. Mr. Ganga needs to speak. Mr. Ganga needs to speak now, please. Let's be seated. Let's be seated, please. Where is Ebere?
I've not taken our own.
Ebere, no. Let's be seated, please. Let's be seated. We'll do more later. Let's do more, please.
We have not taken our own.
No, we'll do that later.
Thank you very much. Let's settle down now.
Yeah.
Let's settle down, please.
If you go down, they will follow you, sir. If you go down. If you go down, sir, they will follow you. Thank you. All right, sir.
Please, let's settle down. Let's settle down, please. Let's be back on our seats. Let's settle down, please. There are 5. No, just make it uniform. He said he wanted to have a white setting for the moderator. I said, no, make it uniform. No, it's 5. Just 5. Let's settle down, please. We are going to have a short 30-minute panel discussion. The author will speak to us and we will close. The author will speak to us and then we will close. Let's settle down, please. Thank you very much. Let's settle down, please. Let's invite the moderator, Dr. Abiodun Adedipe, former Special Assistant to the President on Financial Sector Development. I'd like to welcome Dr. Adedipe, please. These are members of the panel. Dr. Mrs. Deria Wushika, MFR, MNI, former Super PAMSEC, immediate past chairman of Access Bank. Professor Jibrin Ibrahim, chairman, Center for Democracy and Development. Ms. Cynthia Mbamalu, director of program, Yaga Africa. And Dr. Toby Oluwatola, executive director, Center for journalism innovation and development. That's our panel. That's our panel. With Ms. Mbamalu, Cynthia Mbamalu, Director of Programs. Yeah, okay, come in. And Dr. Tobi Oluwatola. Is that you? All right. Professor Jibrin Ibrahim. Professor Jibrin Ibrahim. Okay, so they have about 30 minutes or less to quickly do this. Dr. Abiodun Adedipe will take over from here.
Your Excellencies, the author, Dr. Lucien Maganga, ladies and gentlemen, because of our time, we don't go straight into the business and stand on existing protocols. What we intend to do very quickly is in 3 quick sessions. The first is I will ask the panelists to make broad comments on the book which we have had privilege of reading for this occasion, and then I will come back to them and ask them specific questions relating to some portions of the book. And then we talk to that. And I will also invite some of our attendees in the audience with respect to some pre-launch questions we received from those who have read the book before today and raised some issues. So thank you so very much for giving us this opportunity. I'll straight away into business. I will start with Dr. Awosika. So if we get your quick comments, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, moderator. Excellencies, past presidents, in absentia, but I think they're connected. The representative of His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, other excellencies here present, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and the diplomatic community. Please permit if I omit any protocol. As civil servant, I'm strictly adhered to protocol issues, standing on the protocol, expressing it, and ensuring that we all adhere. Thank you. I want to thank you for inviting me to this occasion. As a general comment, because a lot has been said, rightly so, but I want to note what I've seen in the book. First, when I took the book, Reclaiming the Jewel of Africa, I thought there was going to be controversy.
Please, the room is a bit too noisy. Can we settle down, please? Can we settle down? Thank you.
Thank you. I thought there were going to be controversy. But for once, I saw that once you have a good heart and a good mind, with a good brain, with a patriotic approach, you bring issues that may look sore to the fore, and yet be able to synchronize solutions, not just criticizing, which he didn't, but he was able to bring the issues right to the fore. He was able to synchronize solutions. He was able to get everyone buy-in to the Nigerian and African future. For this, Dr. Aganga, I celebrate God in your life. I thank God that you were able to put this in writing, and you were able to change a thinking in me, which I hope everyone will take today. No more potential. We are going to be talking about prosperity. It's just in the lip of every Nigerian. He said we have a lot of potentials, but the change has come. we are going to prosper. Nigeria is a prosperous country. That mindset we need to get so that we can move forward and forget about yesterday. Because you diagnosed yesterday, you brought to the fore the challenges, and you provide solutions. So we are moving forward. Congratulations. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Oshina. I move on now to Dr. Luatola.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and I will stand on existing protocol. I just first want to say that as one of the last speakers I've heard, all the distinguished people come up here to talk so glowingly about the book. I feel like the 27th wife on Fela's famous wedding must have felt on wedding night. I know what to say, I just don't know if I can make it any more interesting. But my work is made a lot easier by the quality of the book that Olusegun Adoga has written. I think reading the book, there were three thoughts that kept going through my mind. It reads at once like a textbook in economic history and economic interventionism. It also reads like, in the words of Arumate, love letter and a popular note to young people like me who are committed to this project of seeing Nigeria be a better place. I like Mr. Honga, was educated in the US and moved back to try and see what we could do to fix, to play our little role in making Nigeria a little better. And many times that journey feels thankless, and that journey feels frustrating, and it's easy to feel like it's impossible. But what Mr. Adoga has done in this book is not just give you an optimistic perspective on why it is possible, but more importantly, give us a roadmap for how it is possible. And for that, we are deeply grateful. And the third thing that also struck me very strongly is that this book is a very solid book in moral education, in values and leadership. And I want to commend it to any young person who wants to get into leadership in this country. Read this book first. I really like the illustration he made about how much land the story from the church.
We move on now to this.
Yes. Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I'll just stand on existing protocols. But I would say that one, indeed pleased and happy to be part of this conversation. Because as a young Nigerian and a proud Pan-Africanist, I would always want to celebrate any body of knowledge that talks about the pride in Africa, because I think this book, beyond just looking at Nigeria as the jewel, it talks about the centrality of the role of Nigeria in Africa's development, and most importantly, the importance of Africa as the leader of today and tomorrow. And just to build on just my general thoughts, I think there were three important thoughts that came to my mind going through the book. The first is from around the first chapter around political leadership. And the fact that Mr. Aganga looked at leadership as a major challenge, that if we get leadership right, then we can solve the major problems that we have. And I liked it because talking about political leadership, he went straight to the conversation around our political system, our electoral system. And in the book, he wasn't shy to question things as simple as if our electoral system works for us, And so the conversation around proportional representation, which was once enunciated by the Justice Suez Committee in the electoral reform work post-2007 election, came back in this book. And I think as a people, we need to actually ask ourselves, our electoral system, can we review to a hybrid to introduce proportional representation? Because the conversation Mr. Aganga has is the importance of representation that promotes inclusivity or reduces the pressure for political contest. That is one. But also how proportional representation can ensure that political parties, regardless of their strength, can have a sense of representation in governance. Then it talks a bit about representation for minority groups and diverse opinions. So for me, when he talked around leadership, I found that quite instructive because honestly, Nigeria has all it takes to lead Africa. But it also goes about talking around the costs of elections. And that is because if you look at the book, he made an analysis in 1999. We spent $1 billion naira for our elections. Fast forward it to where we are today, the current elections, the general elections of this year, the budget was about 300 plus billion naira. The question is, we're spending more for elections, but are we getting value for the monies we're spending in elections? Are elections truly producing the leaders that can turn this our potential into prosperity? And I think that was a bigger question. That in the conversation around cost of election, I like how he expanded to talk around even the quality of participation and the need for even citizens to engage the process differently. And I think that for me is instructive because we just came up from an elections and we can't spend more for elections and have lower turnout. Then he talked about the people as the biggest assets. And I do agree that our people are our biggest assets. But the conversation around people, I like the fact he mentioned youth because as a young Nigerian, I do believe that a lot of young Nigerians are trying to see where the hope is. A lot of young Nigerians are trying to have their hope reaffirmed or how would I put it, looking for somewhere to find inspiration. So in the conversation as the people as the biggest asset, our people can only be our biggest asset if we invest in human capital development. And I like the fact he had that conversation. And there's a quote he mentioned, he said our political and governance structures are costly, that they are skewed to favor political considerations rather than economic growth. And we need to review and reject that. And within that conversation, if we truly want to say that our people are the assets, then in his argument, we need to look at education, we need to look at health, we need to look at different sectors of the society that promote inclusive growth. That is the only way Nigerians will take agency. And lastly for me, because one of the things this book did was, it also took us back to the independence era, to the period where our naira could compete with the pounds. And he made a reference that once upon a time, naira was stronger than pounds. Once upon a time, other people from different parts of the world came to get education from Nigeria. But in looking at the past, he looked at how to forge a pathway for the future. And I do believe that he has labeled what I call the pedagogy of leadership in his book when he talks about the need for vision, for value, for competence, and continuity. And I want to end my thoughts around continuity. Nigeria cannot go further if each government that comes in place believes that everything that existed before was a failure and would want to rebuild something new. We need to build on things that have worked. We need to look for the values and look for the competencies within the system, and we need to invest in building a system that truly supports inclusive growth and development. But I do salute Mr. Aganga for this work, and I do think it's a piece of literature that young Nigerians especially need to have access to once again renew that trust and faith in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Now, let me go to the specific questions that talk to your competence and experience. And I will go back to Dr. Uche. At the present moment, you are the honorary also of State Republic in Nigeria. You are also a retired federal government secretary, of course, we all know that. And certainly that's an area that we say is so tough. And not only that, you've had your own stint also in the private sector as the village past chairman of Access Bank, PLC. Then most importantly for us, looking at a particular chapter of that book on the civil service, pages 55 to 60 and 75 to 82. Now, what from your perspective would you say for Nigeria today are the top priorities for re-engineering civil service and make it 21st century compliant?
Thank you, Dr. Adedipe. Let me pay my respect to my colleagues here this morning. Quite happy to see that a lot of the permanent secretaries and head of service, Kifasi, and every other one, even my senior colleague who wrote a book on civil service, Adegoroyi, I pay my respect to each and every one of you. Thank you, Dr. Agaga, for bringing a focus on civil service. And sometimes I want to say very clearly and boldly, joke with the service, you joke with the administration and implementation. That's just the truth. That's the truth. Move the service, you make progress. And that's why you said service is an engine room. Now, for you to re-engineer, I use your word, he made recommendations, excellent recommendations. But you must believe in what you want to re-engineer. Dr. Agaga, thank you for, in your book, you said there are excellent personnel in the civil service. So when I retired and I hear from the private sector, they don't know anything. I say jokers. Because they know a lot. And the civil service, being an NG, is guided with rules, regulations, and laws. And what we need to do is ensure those laws are things that guide actions, decisions, implementation, most of which is rounded with accountability. When I hear things like they miss a huge amount of money, I say, by who? Through what sector and what law and how did it happen? There are questions around it because as a permanent secretary, the highest I can approve is 5 million naira. So how then can you say 100 million naira is missing under me? There are procedures for all of that. I say this to say, procedures as he recommended are essential. And processes must be adhered to, all within the law. I remember having a stint as a partner with the EU. And from them I learned that procedural things are more punished than when they actually catch you doing wrong. Because it's in the process of being procedural that you jump the gun and you make mistakes that are grievous. So we need to adhere to rules and regulations. And he made recommendation, yes, you need to open a book to declare gifts. It's there, it's implicit, it's conflict of interest. It's in the rule. And as colleagues, we recognize this. Thank you, you said salary. I didn't want to play emphasis on salary. I was chairman of review of salaries for civil service when I was in service because civil service oversee public service. But public service salaries are more than the civil service. You have somebody in the NNPC being supervised by Ministry of Petroleum earning so much. Good. I have nothing to say against that. They are probably, but there is need to also ensure an equity is enshrined in the system. So there is need to consider moving forward, looking at all of this within the constraints of our economy. But whether it is necessary, the answer is yes, it is. It is necessary. Let's not deceive ourselves. This salary is poor. And I will say it publicly here without any there. Anytime I look at my staff working to 2 to 3 a.m., what do? This personal experience. I look at the overhead charge and tell the accountant, give me food from the restaurants. Let them have lunch, dinner before going home. Something to encourage them to do more work. Because indeed, they do a lot of work. And sometimes we want to hide this and say, write it there. When the auditor come, I will tell him, my closing time is 3:30 and they are closing at 4 a.m., 3 a.m. I need to give them something. I can't ask their wife or staff to bring food for them in the office. We need to do a realistic way of ensuring that people are doing the right thing. And what is that realistic way? Please, let's introduce technology for transparency. Enough of the word corruption, just like there's enough of the word potential. Those two words, we don't need them. For potential, we need prosperity. For corruption, we need transparency. When you build transparency in the system, you don't talk about corruption anymore. And technology can aid transparency. That's what we need. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. So let me now come back to Dr. Oluwatola. On pages 27 and 20 of the book, you have already read it. But put it in context of your present job role as Executive Director of Journalism, Innovation and Development Center. Now, we commonly say that the media says they are agenda for discourse. But today we are discussing the book written by Dr. Bishop Naganga. Now, also present with us here is the representative of Mr. President. Now, assuming you have a one-on-one with him, knowing fully well you will take your message to Mr. President, what are those top priorities you tell me?
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I'm glad that my Ebo is here, Mr. Wale, to hear this. So I think the first one is very apparent, and it's exactly what Doctor has said, which is civil service reform. And I think that it's very important. Mr. Agoga talks about it in pages 21 and 82, a list of priorities to fix in the civil service, and I just endorse that list. It includes things like the Rosary report, it includes things like increasing salaries, and I want to stay on this salaries issue for a little bit, because when people talk about corruption, how do you expect someone not to be corrupt if you're paying $250,000 and then he's allocating land for his state as Surveyor General? It's likely that he would take the opportunity to get something out of it. So the summary is that we need to pay livable wage, and then from there go on to the issues of transparency, and the media can help with this. There's any number of media who want to help with accountability if we will be transparent with information, with data. There's an FOI many times, Freedom of Information Act, many times the media asks for information, and then we just get steamrolled with people putting up the Official Secrets Act and other things like that to make sure that they don't divulge information that could potentially be damaging when it is in the public interest. So reforms, but also making sure that there's transparency and technology can help, like Madam said. The second point I want to mention, my colleague hinted earlier, is mining the youth population for economic value. Now, Mr. Edo also talked about it, but I want to share a slightly different dimension that Mr. Agoga talked about with the example of Brazil and Sinai, where he said, Brazil actively educated, created this industrial training parks that train people for 3 months and immediately got them in jobs. And there are young people in Lagos today that work from their bedrooms, working for US companies, just doing work, leveraging the digital economy, making $3,000, $5,000 a month. If we train 1 million of those types of young people for 6 months, and they get that kind of a job, those jobs are available on Upwork or whatever you call it. They are available. They get those type of jobs. That's about $3 to $5 billion a month. in income, in increase to the GDP. That's about the same amount we make from oil in a month. So we can, if we truly are deliberate about mining the youth population, Mr. Uga stressed a lot that we have an average of 18, and this is an age where we can do this. The last point I want to talk about is to move, and again, Mr. Uga's book talked about the setting up of the Sovereign Wealth Fund. I had the privilege of working, doing a lot of consulting for Mubadala in my consulting days, and I saw how from a small fund they become such a powerful thing, driving all the electricity, all the investments in electricity, investments in infrastructure across UAE, starting from Abu Dhabi, and we see just from our own example the results with NSIA. NSIA haven't grown the fund from 1 billion, even though Mr. Agoga points out that what was in the acts that they would grow the fund annually didn't happen. But then you look at agencies like NDDC that are set up to create development. If NDDC has received close to 10 trillion in the last 23 years, if that 10 trillion naira was invested like a fund, it could have become about 100 billion or 100 trillion. And at the same time, not all the money invested, some of it invested, some of it used for projects, you could have still had good products on the ground. But what we have is that more than 43, only about 43% of the project that NDC lists on its website are actually existing at some level of completion. So let's think more from a PPP investment standpoint and leave that model of just contracting and contracting. I know that it will affect a lot of those of us, people who benefit from the system, but Mr. Agoga talked about it with that, the anecdotes of the ones who walked away from Omelas, that we can't ignore, because we benefit from something, we can't ignore the filth that is becoming of our country.
Thank you so very much. Now, because we are also under pressure of time, what I will do now is to invite the response to one of the pre-launch questions that we received, and that relates to traditional leadership and community level. So this time around, I want to come to our dear Royal Majesty Oba Mufta, the Olova of Oba. Now there's a reference to what he did for Oba in this book on page 120 and 121. We want to share with this audience the role that traditional rulers and institutions can play in resetting values and making us also to build from the ground up. So just 2 minutes, sir.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I will first of all appreciate Dr. Aganga for recognizing my community in his book. We all appreciate it. It will interest all of you here to know that OFA is like a second home to Dr. Aganga. Going by the numbers of my people around here, you will know that OFA is really the second home. The joy of reclaiming the joys of Africa is like what I did 30 years ago when I came aboard on the throne of my forebears. I first of all unite the whole community, because the love is there for both men and women. All of them loves me, and they believe that I can take them to a greater level, just like we are hoping the current administration will do. I call, unite everybody together, making sure we are on the same page before starting the development. And you can see as a community, which we have invested a lot in education, that is where you have the first community secondary school in northern Nigeria, built as far back as 1943. So we had of our general center was built by several projects. So when I came on board, I now said we should continue from where we stopped. Why don't we all put our hands together and continue doing this thing? Because we cannot all rely on government to come and do everything for us. As such, I call on my sons and daughters. We have an account where all of us contribute certain amounts. And today I must tell you, the only community in Nigeria that built in Mubara worth about 700 million is Ofa. Apart from that, the general hospital which we built in 1946 has been rebuilt now with an additional of accident and emergency center just built by a few group of our sons and daughters. When the government came to commission it, he was even begging that if he can pay us back and hold it, that is exactly what we do. There is transparency in anything I do. I carry everyone, both the men and the women along, to let them know the reason why we should not wait for the government. If we are waiting for the government, we would have not been the second largest community in Kwara State today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, sir. That is very instructive. We cannot all wait for government in solving the issues and challenges our nation is facing. I want to leave us with this, and then we wrap up the panel discussion because of time. Initially, I wanted Mr. Babali to speak to me, and then I'll just leave that with the audience. And this is the way it goes. The reference in the book to the demography of Nigeria, I want to put in context of the average age in China is 30 years. The average age India is 20 years. That's median age. Is 28 years India. So it is calculated that that puts India at an advantage over China in terms of prospects for new growth. But here in Nigeria, 18 years is median age. So that gives us a pointer as the huge potential we have that can be converted to prosperity according to the strong message in this book. The reclaiming the jewel of Africa. So on that note, I want to say very big thank you to Dr. Ghana for giving us the book. It's a gift. You are gifting this document. And also thank the panelists. Even though we had a short time, we interrogate the issues. And thank you so very much for the very wonderful discussion. God bless you. And thank you for your opportunity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Didikwe. Let's appreciate them as they step down. Thank you very much, and members of the panel. And already people are buying the books. The Olofo Ofofa, thank you for your thoughts. And he's also buying a few copies for 1 million naira. We say thank you very much. The representative of the Oba of Lagos is also buying a few copies for 1 million naira. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. His Excellency, the Governor of Kogi State, the White Lion himself, represented by another lion here. I don't know if his own color is white or brown. The Deputy Governor is here, Dr. Edward Onoja. Kogi State Governor is buying a few copies for 5 million naira. Dr. Kamoru Yusuf, MON, I understand I should not mention the amount of money. But from what I'm seeing here, it can fill up a bullion van. Thank you very much, Dr. Kamaru Yusuf. We appreciate you. Engineer Kola Balogun is also saying we should not mention the amount, but thank you very much for what you are giving. Please keep those monies coming. Let me also welcome here one of Nigeria's finest broadcasters, Mrs. Mujima Konjola, stepped in here earlier. We thank you very much. Thank you. So without much ado, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome here Dr. Olusegun Aganga, former Minister of Finance, former Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, and who's the author of this beautiful book, to please step forward here and say a few words. Ms. Odukale, please come forward. Ms. Odukale.
Representing her father, Mr. Oye Odukale.
Okay, you're representing your father, Mr. Oye Odukale. Please step forward. Maybe that's how we are in white. Yeah.
We'll just finish it.
Good afternoon. On behalf of my dad, Mr. Oye Hassan Odukale, we would like to first of all congratulate Uncle Segun on the launch of his book. And also on behalf of my dad and my family, we would like to purchase 400 books to be distributed to the Nigeria Higher Institution. Thank you very much.
I didn't hear that. Did you say how many copies?
400.
400 copies. So we've run out of stock, that's what it means. Which was the same problem we had in London. We ran out of stock at the particular stage and we couldn't supply everyone. But we will print more, and this time we'll get a Nigerian publisher to print this. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, ably represented here today by my very good and old friend, Lawale Edun. The former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Olusegun Obasanjo. And I must say a very big thank you to the President, because as you heard earlier on, he actually left home at 3 a.m. this morning, planning to catch a flight to be here with us throughout today. But the flight was canceled. He had to drive back home to Abeokuta, went straight to his office and went to do the recording you listened to. That tells you what it is to be dedicated at his age and time to do what he has done. I think it requires special commendation. President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. And of course, I have to recognize the governors, ex-governors that are here, the Kogi State governor, ably represented here. Please give my special regards to your governor. And thank him for the copies he has bought also. I will give him a call to say thank you to him also for being here. And of course, Otumba Adeni Adebayo, who was a former governor of Ekiti State, not privileged to go to Christ School, but he knows people who went to Christ School, so that's fine. And former Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment. I used to call his wife Monday morning, Angela. We've known each other for a very long time. Of course, Kayode, former governor also, and former minister Kayode Fayemi. And of course, I would say A very, very big thank you, special thank you to the Oba of Lagos. Eshio Ekudide. He's ably represented here by 4-5 white-capped chiefs. And in addition to that, has bought several copies of the book yet for 1 million naira. And of course, the Olofa of Ofa. I thought he had gone. I was just going to, who is here with us. And there are a lot of people from Ofa here. We're here with us today. I want to say a big thank you. I went to Ofa for something, chieftaincy title. And I got to hear about what they were doing in Ofa. And I felt it was very intriguing. And I thought all the traditional leaders can learn from this. If you go through the book, I wrote a lot about that. I think other traditional rulers can emulate what is happening in Ofa. Overall, I have to say a big thank you to our panelists, beginning with, of course, Mrs. Awoshika, Aruma, and everyone who's made today very special. So let me stand on existing protocol. I can't thank you all enough for your presence and the interest in the book. The Kindle copy of the book was actually released, was first published on the 5th of June, which was my birthday. It was a coincidence that it happened to be on my birthday. And the hard copy was published on the 6th of June. As soon as it was published, it became Amazon's bestseller. And it was ranked #1 in new hot releases in 4 categories: political economy, business economy, African politics, African economic conditions. We have had a launch in London, which we had the book launch in London last Wednesday on the 12th of July. That book launch in London was under the chairmanship of Lord Hastings, and it was hosted by the Royal African Society, which is chaired by our own Dr. Aruma Ote, who we're privileged to have here today. She actually had to change her travel plans to be with us today. I am grateful for what you have done. She was the Director General of the Stock Exchange Commission when I was Minister of Finance. She said a lot about what we did and gave me a lot of credit, but I will give her back a lot of the credit. She did most of the work. I was just there to support her. Aruma is now the Executive in Residence, Sage Business School, University of Oxford. So she's based in Oxford. There are many reasons why I wrote the book, or why I wrote the book. But I will share just one of them with you. There's a common understanding that Nigeria and indeed Africa have great potentials. You hear that all the time. There's also a common agreement that with such great potentials, we are not where we want to be or where we should be as a nation. When I was privileged to serve first as the Minister of Finance and Chairman of the Economic Management Team, and later the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, big thanks to President Obasanjo, as you heard, who nominated me, convinced me to go to leave Goldman Sachs in London and to go into public service in Nigeria. And of course, he was supportive all the way, all for the full 5 years. And of course, a very big thank you
to President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, who actually appointed me, first as Minister of Finance and later as Industry, Trade and Investment, for also creating the environment for us to perform when he was president. It was a joy and a privilege to work for such a president. When I was in government, I saw firsthand that the potential I hear about outside government actually is huge. Particularly when you consider the natural and human resources Nigeria is blessed with. A country blessed with more than 44 solid minerals in commercial quantity. A country that has more than 85 million hectares of land where almost everything can grow. Has no business with food insecurity. A country that is a top 10 or 15 in terms of oil and gas producer in the world. A country that has the demography that is the envy of the world. A country that has some of the best brains anywhere in the world. Go to any university anywhere in the world, Nigerians have been there and are excelling. And some of the best students in those universities are Nigerians. A country that has people that are not only hardworking, entrepreneurial, confident people. Anywhere you go, you will recognize a Nigerian when you go there. Nigerians are absolutely confident people. And the DNA is a can-do spirit there, the DNA. We are a special breed created for a special country. And all we need to do is get our act together and Nigeria will become a prosperous and great nation. I align with Dr. Awushika when she said, let's forget about potential now, let's talk about the real thing, posterity. Let's move forward. And we need everyone to do that. So how many countries in the world can boast of all these things I have talked about? Very, very few countries in the world. So the question is, why are we not where we should be? What is stopping Nigeria from playing the role it needs to play in Africa and becoming one of the greatest and most prosperous nations in the world? When you speak to different individuals, some will say it's leadership, as you have heard. Some will say it's corruption. There's no one book that provides a comprehensive analysis and a roadmap to that destination we want to go to. This is what I have tried to do in the book, Reclaiming the Jewel of Africa. I say reclaiming because I remember in my days when my first degree was at the University of Ibadan. In those days, people came from the United States of America, from other parts of Africa, to UI in those days. It was a premier university. Those who went abroad when I left secondary school were mostly people who failed the exams. The top brains remained in Nigeria because UI was one of the best universities in the world. I remember those days, in the days of my parents, that we had a values-based society. The days when my mother would write to you and say to you, all that glitters is no gold. Remember the home you have come from. We had a value system that worked, and that was the envy of the other African countries. That is my memory of my country. And that is one of the reasons I said it's a matter of reclaiming what we have been in the past. Each chapter of Reclaiming the Jewel of Africa identifies the issues holding us back, what we need to do in terms of focusing on the causes rather than on the symptoms. Most people talk about, when you talk about corruption, corruption is not a problem. You need to look at the root causes of corruption. That is what the book has tried to do. It has also tried to look at other countries in the world and say, what can we learn from different countries in the world that have gone through exactly what we have gone through? Before 1979, China was a very, very poor country. It was going nowhere. But when it embarked on the Industrial Revolution and all the economic policies, from 1980, the economy doubled every 8 years. It had double-digit growth. It brought 800 million people out of poverty. That is what it has. If China can do it, Nigeria can do it and even do it better, because we have the people who should be able to do that. So it's important to see what we can do as a country. The other thing we have tried to do in the book, is to talk. The book itself contains about 147 recommendations. BA Consulting are preparing a book of recommendations, which I hope we'll share with policymakers. But the idea is that there's a lot we can do together as a nation, and there's a lot we can do right to put our nation in the right place. So, for example, in chapter 3, when I wrote about the civil service as a backbone of any government, the summary of my recommendations are that we need to make our civil service leaner and smarter, not like a social security organization. The civil service needs to be apolitical and professional. We need to pay them far much more to attract and retain the best brains in our civil service. This is the model other countries have followed, including Singapore. We need to embed relevant training and also equip them. Recruitment and promotions should be based on merit. Yes, federal character is important, but there's talent everywhere in the world. Whether it's Yobe, whether it's Katsina, wherever, there's talent, Bauchi, there's talent everywhere. Go for the best people and recruit your best people and retain them. We talked about, so what I'm talking about is about meritocracy. Set developmental and service targets for MDAs. Recognize and reward good performance. Embed the core national values of integrity, patriotism, excellence, diligence, teamwork in the civil service. We now need a new code of conduct, which includes gifts, registers, and other things. We need to embrace innovation, digitalize the civil service, fully implement the e-government, which we started, to promote efficiency, transparency, and accountability. We need to invest in the financial security of our retirees. Not a case where in the days of my father, when they retired, they built their first home in their villages with their gratuity. They were contented. They knew that when they finished the civil service, they were going to build a home they will live in. There was no need to steal because it was easy. They knew they had to do that. Today, you have situations where contributions from employers are not remitted to the PFAs, or employees are not remitted to PFAs. Employers are not remitting their own contribution. How would you, when there's no financial security for people who have served the nation for more than 35 years, how do you reconcile that with a situation where you have governors who serve a state for 4 and 8 years, some of them 8 years, and they have houses built for them in 2 locations, they have cars made available to them and renewed every 3 years, they have staff allowance, they have pay that is indexed to inflation or the current holder is paying, and they have payment for life. Some have holiday also, and it's first-line deduction. How do you justify that in a fair society? We need to do that for our civil servants and make sure that we look after them. There's need for complete reform of the parastatals because they are key institutions of government. Adopting National Code of Conduct, Corporate Code of Conduct, Corporate Code of Governance. I think you may have looked at it towards the end. I think it went back or so. the National Code of Corporate Governance. It has been implemented in the private sector. Now we need to implement it in the public sector. And the legislators have work to do in that respect. We need to introduce meritocracy, as I said, in the civil service. We should stop seeing jobs in those important parastatals as dividends of democracy, where as soon as we win an election, all the people that helped win that election, you share it, not looking at competence. There are politicians that are competent. Yes, pick them. But let competence be the factor that determines who heads Nigeria Investment Promotion Council and any of those institutions. And the board, make sure that it's competent. We need our best people playing for us so that we can have a great nation. There's nowhere in the world where the way we share offices based on political considerations almost 100% will work. It will not work. When institutions are weak, nations will always fail. Those parastatals are key institutions of government. You need to get it right. And we need to get to that stage where we do what is right. We need to set developmental targets for MDAs and even for the MDAs. For example, their contribution to GDP, revenue targets, foreign income targets. And of course, there's no reason why you can't do sector surveys, satisfaction survey, to find out what government needs to do differently and how satisfied the people are with your quality of governance. After all, it's supposed to be a government by the people and for the people. That's the way you get feedback from what people have done. When we do these things that I've just suggested in that chapter, we improve the quality of governance, have a strong group of consumers for the economy. We accelerate development. We deal with the real causes of what we call corruption. And by the way, as you heard from the panelists, there is a role for all of us. Regardless of who you are, you can make a difference whether you're in government or outside government. We are all stakeholders of this great and beautiful country, and we all have a job to do. Whether you're in the private sector, you're government, you're in National Assembly, you're in judiciary, you're in the traditional and religious leaders. We just heard how Ofa have dealt with it from the Olofa of Ofa. Or whether you're a student, youth, or whether you're in the diaspora. In fact, in the book, I've suggested that there should be a presidential council, diaspora council, where you bring the best brain in diaspora in each of the sectors, economy, education, health, and all that, working with people in Nigeria to deal with the issues we have in this country. That way, we leverage on their knowledge, we leverage on their exposure, we leverage on their network and relationship. We need to build this country together as a people, and we have talent all over. Use the talents we have. Permit me, this book is for all of us, and this also applies to other African countries. Let me end by reading the last paragraph of the book. The last paragraph in the last chapter of the book. From the outside, before I left Goldman Sachs in London to serve in government, I felt, like everyone else, that Nigeria and Africa had great potentials. When I got in and served first as Minister of Finance and Chairman of Economic Management Team, and later as Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, I saw that Nigeria did in fact have all it takes to be a great nation, and there is a bright light at the end of the tunnel. 6 years after leaving government, I have moved from feeling and seeing to knowing that the future of Nigeria is indeed very, very bright. I say this with all sense of responsibility. Despite the current challenges we have, and I do not take these challenges lightly, the younger generation gives me hope and inspiration that when, not if, the matters in this book are fully addressed, there will be no stopping Nigeria and Africa. Patrice Lumumba must have seen this coming. when he said, "The day Nigeria wakes up, Africa will never be the same again." I repeat, the future is brighter than many people think or know. I end with Nelson Mandela's quote, also known as Madiba, that the black people of the world need Nigeria to be a great source of pride and confidence. I agree with Madiba. When that happens, this green passport will become our biggest asset. Keep this for the future. This will be our biggest asset. We will get there. We will get there. We will get there. We have the people to take us there. God bless Africa. God bless Nigeria. Nigeria will rise again. Thank you.
Amazing. Wonderful. No wonder President Jonathan called him the Chief Marketing Officer of Nigeria during his administration. Smooth, silky, and straight to the point. Thank you very much. Let's be seated, please. Let's be seated. Thank you. Very quickly, let me invite the chairman of the planning committee of this book presentation, Mr. Waido Lagunju, former acting managing director of Bank of Industry, to just say thank you to all of us before we close.
Well, the time is fast spent. Mr. Ganga has thanked everybody. What I've been asked to do actually is to thank Mr. Ganga himself too for what he did for us while he was Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for a period of 5 years. Many of us who worked with him ended up with postgraduate certificates or diplomas in finance or development banking. You helped in building our capacities and we learned quite a lot from you. The standing ovation we gave him now was what he always received whenever he went abroad marketing Nigeria. And he always told them how the Nigerian economy was outperforming the economies of even some G7 countries. And they also acknowledged and punctuated his presentations with standing ovation. So once again, I want to thank you immensely, sir, for all you did for us, for all you did for Nigeria, and for all you did for the ministries that you served. And lastly, my Kabiyesi, I thank you too for coming here today, for endorsing what the minister said. I don't want to be sent back home when I get back to Kwara State. The minister is laughing at me. It is true, sir. Governor Debayo. So, Kabiyesi, thank you very much, sir. And then the retired General, you're welcome, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Agwai, we thank you for being here with us throughout. Deputy Governor of Kogi State, we thank you for being with us throughout. And our sister, Madam Aruma, will say, we thank you for being with us. What people do not know about Dr. Woshika is that she left London last night. She had to reroute her flight. She was meant to arrive in Lagos, but due to scheduling issues, she arrived in London. She arrived Abuja this morning from London and barely slept for 3 hours before dashing here. And from the way she spoke, we wouldn't know that she never even had a good night rest. We thank you, man, for coming. And then the entrepreneurs who are here, Engineer Kola Balogun and Kamaldeen Yusuf, we need more of these entrepreneurs if we are going to double Nigeria's GDP. We want to thank you for the good work you are doing. Continue to inspire and motivate other entrepreneurs. Thank you very much and God bless. Can we have...
Before we finally close, let me also welcome Mr. Samuel Agbelui, President and Chairman of Council, Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. Please shall we rise now for the national anthem.